across us all. Whether it be a person, place, or thing, we are reluctant to let go. We call to the dead out of desperation and intrigue, searching for answers about what lies behind the shadows. We are paranormal researchers. We are Necromancers. Hello, and welcome to the Necromancer Live Show. I'm your host, Justin Brown, and we're presenting episode 68 with Vanessa Hogle this evening. Thanks for joining us, everybody. If you are new to the show, this is how it works. If you have a question for our viewer, be patient. Put your question down in the comments. Here, periodically through the show, we'll go through the comments, read your questions off to our guest, and we'll get those answers for you as best as possible. Who we have this evening is our everyday chat moderators, Jess and Missy. So you girls ready to get it on tonight?
Oh, yeah.
How ready are you?
I'm excited. Yes, I'm excited because this woman has cracked me up since we started our call. And I'm going to tell you, I already told them, I'm telling you right now, I was so tired, and now I'm full of energy because of this woman.
All right, awesome. Yeah. Okay, well, buckle in, guys. You're in for a good one tonight. We have Vanessa Hogle with us this evening. She is an author, artist, and remote viewer from Wichita, Kansas. Since the age of 2, Vanessa has had encounters with what we call the paranormal. These experiences and gifts has led her to create art, write books, and she has made many appearances on Paranormal TV and many paranormal radio shows, including Animal Planet The Haunted. She is a co-host for a successful YouTube show called The Edge of the Rabbit Hole with host Mike Ricksecker. Vanessa has published 3 books and has been featured in 4 others, all relaying her experiences in the paranormal. She has traveled the world to places like Ireland, England, Scotland, and all over the U.S., and has worked on over 300 paranormal cases in the last 4 years. That's a lot, Vanessa.
Yeah.
What's up with that?
I'm tired. That it's I wish I could say that I had been on location to all of them, and it's actually well above that now from when I first wrote that. But I do a lot of remote viewing for different teams all over the world, and here in the U.S. I've remote viewed for teams in Japan, Germany, again Ireland, Scotland, Italy, England. One in Australia, Canada, you name it. I mean, it kind of happens because of my blog that I have out there that I really do need to write in because I've really fucking ignored it. But that is viewed in it's read in 27 countries. So people contact me through there. Books are translated into 17 different languages, so I get a lot of contact through there, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And if somebody has a need, whether it's a missing person, which happens more than I would like because that's a horrible thing, or just a particular case, then they contact me and see what I can get from it. I don't waste their time. If I don't get anything right off the bat, I move them on to somebody who might. Because it's not about me being right, it's about them finding answers. So it's just kind of one of those things, but it just so happens that it's worked out that way a lot. It's been a lot of fun, a lot of long nights.
I can only imagine. I can relate though. I keep busy myself. I push the limit of what I'm capable of doing. And some people that's how they're built. That's how they're made. They just push it until they can't do it no more.
Yeah. I don't know how to do it any other way.
Right.
You know, I mean, it's the contact. It's weird. It's one of the reasons why, because I do tarot as well. It's one of the reasons why I started charging a nominal fee, because my phone literally never stopped ringing, ever. Whether it was DMs through social media or calling me through social media, never stopped, because the time zones are irrelevant. because it's from all over the world. So that kind of helped, as I put it in this next book that I'm working on, weed out the crazies. And I don't mean any offense by that. But when you're getting somebody calling your phone at 3:30 in the morning on a work night, asking you where they put their keys, I mean,
no shit.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah. But I don't, like I said, I don't know how to do it any different. All I've ever done is work.
Right on. Okay.
Different.
Well, before we start getting into what you're doing now, I want to go back to the beginning. That's what I like to do. I want people to understand where you came from, what your roots are. So let's talk about the part in your bio where you're younger than 2 years old. What's happening to Vanessa at 2?
It really is interesting, because I actually think that there is, to a certain degree, a reason for why I can do things I can do. One, it runs in the family. My mom is, we're predominantly German family, German and Irish. My mom's the 7th daughter and the 13th child. She was what they called the family witch. Everybody in my family, everybody has some ability. I just kind of got the mother load. And I think the reason for that was because I had 4. It's ironic that you asked me about that. I was going to message you last night because I saw your show. I had 4 NDEs before the age of 3. 4. Wow. So, yeah, I mean, it was a rough childhood. And I think that kind of opened me up a little bit to having those experiences. There I have a TMI, traumatic brain injury, from when I was 2. And that I think has actually had a lot to do with it. You know, I got scar tissue on my brain. Seizures didn't start for 19 years after the traumatic brain injury. And that's when the seizures started, and things just really started to escalate after that. But my grandmother, she and I share a birthday. She died right before I was to turn 2. And she was my first experience. She eased me into it, where I really knew what was going on. And I'm grateful for that, because a lot of people don't have that. A lot of people have a nasty first experience or a frightening first experience. I had an extremely loving first experience. So I'm very grateful for that. Hasn't always been that way. I get some nasty motherfuckers up in this place right here. You know, I mean, they just come, you know, but she really, really eased me into it. And she's kind of been there ever since.
So, do you think there's any significance to the timing of that?
I do. I really do. Not to make myself sound important, because we're all important. No better, no worse. But I think everything that happened to me with the traumatic experiences of my childhood, with the turbulent situation of my childhood, with the death of my grandmother, and with everything that I went through before, then, and after, all of that set me up to be able to be the person that I am now and help people. I wouldn't trade a second of it. You know, I don't know how blunt you want me to be, but, you know, almost died 4 times, a horrible family situation between my parents, divorced, married, divorced, married, divorced, married. I was a rape survivor. I've been almost beaten to death by somebody and put in the hospital, perfect stranger. I was homeless for a while. And all of that, I pulled myself up from nothing because of those experiences and because of what I knew I was supposed to be doing.
Right. That definitely aligns with a lot of the psychological and statistical studies people has done on people who are sensitive to the paranormal, believe in the paranormal, have paranormal experiences, usually come from backgrounds of abuse, trauma, whether it be psychological or physical trauma. All those things are definitely recipes to make someone more sensitive. And I think that there's coping mechanisms and other mechanisms that give rise to paranormal experiences and abilities like you have. Do you have any more insight on that?
It's what I talked about in, I believe it was my second book, Giving Up the Ghost. It's very difficult to have these abilities, especially as a young adult or a teenager. So you have to learn how to cope. You don't have a choice. I was the creepy girl. I was the one that could do things that scared the shit out of everybody. I just by staring into her eyes, I put one girl into a seizure, and this was in front of multiple witnesses.
Jesus.
I don't have any recollection of that. I have no recollection of that. It took her 3 years to come to me and apologize for basically making my life a living hell afterwards by telling everybody how evil I was. I was the evil girl, which I am. Again, I do practice witchcraft. I'm a candle magic girl, okay? I burn my hair and everything. So, yeah, I'm one of those gals. But I had to learn. I had to learn how to deal with that on my own. And this is going to sound really bizarre, but I want people to understand. I actually wrote a blog on this. People who grow up this way, especially girls, you're looked at in a different way. And I don't mean as just creepy. There is a different, almost a sexual look that even adults give you because you have this weird energy around you. And it causes a lot of problems. It draws the wrong type of people. And they can't even tell you why they're attracted to it. It's this weird magical, makes it sound like it's a good thing, and it's not. But it contributes to putting you into very dangerous situations when you're young and you don't know how to deal with this. And it did that for me. And as I started to pull myself out of that, I just got encased in this nice, big, hard shell that nobody can get through. You would call me cold. Some might call me cold. I'm not unfeeling, but I sure as hell can come off that way. But I'm just not bothered.
Right.
And it's because of that. I mean, I'm bothered by cruelty to children and animals. To myself, I don't give a fuck. I don't care. I mean, do your best. you know.
It's interesting to me because if you read about fiction and fantasy stuff, especially like things like comic books, people with superpowers, they always seem to be triggered by traumatic things.
Mm-hmm.
It's not always some type of evolution of DNA. You know, a lot of the stories, you know, something happens and evolution happens through a certain traumatic episode.
Mm-hmm.
And
I agree with that 100%. Because so if I hadn't have been through everything that I've been through in my life, how would I know how to deal with someone who's deceased who died traumatically? How would I know how to deal with someone who is deceased who was a rape survivor or a child molestation victim or was beat to death by their husband? If I hadn't have been through all the things that I've been through, I wouldn't have that insight. And when people ask me if I would change anything in my past, would I do it? And I'm like, no. Even the most horrible I wouldn't change a bit of it because I wouldn't have that hidden knowledge to know how to deal with, so in Virginia, I was in a Hollywood cemetery, and I'm dealing with all of the deceased soldiers that are there. They're very angry because a lot of them only have numbers on their graves, not names. This has happened in a couple of cemeteries. Soldiers, and I hate to say it, but murderers dig me because I don't judge. I'm not going to judge. I'm not here to judge you. I'm here to find out what the problem is. I'm here to talk to you about it. And if I can bring any closure to it, whether you're alive or dead, that's my job. It's not my job to sit here and judge how you got there. It's not my job to sit here and try to make you feel bad for how you got there. It's my job to try to figure out where do we go from here. And all of those experiences that I've had enable me to do that without putting a spin on it that is self-serving. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, especially the part about knowing how to relate and connect with those energies and those consciousnesses. From that point of view, it makes total sense to me. When people, they're going to maybe therapy, And the one thing that, you know I fear personally, and I'm sure other people can relate, that why am I going to go talk to this guy or gal that's never been through what I've been through, doesn't know how it feels? How are they going to relate to my situation? Yeah, they might have some clinical experience and they may have read some books or had somebody teach them about so on and so forth, but do they know? Can they help me through, some type of empathy?
Absolutely. You're right. I mean, it's hard to explain to people. Like for me, I've had 6 miscarriages. I have 1 living child, and he's my last. And unless you've been through that, like somebody like myself has, you can feel sorry. You can definitely have sympathy, but you can never fully know what it feels like. Like you said, I mean, you can know what it feels like from a book and from what you've read and from what the particular things that you might show that you're supposed to feel like, but you're never going to know. I mean, I had one case where I was remote viewing for somebody in Dallas, and I didn't have the name, I didn't have anything. They had me on the phone, and it was supposed to be helping this mom with her. All I knew was her son had died within the last like 5 or 7 years from at this point. And, she was asking me what I was getting, and I was really afraid to tell her. Honestly, I was afraid, but this is where ego's got to take a back seat. I got to be willing to look stupid and just tell her what I'm feeling. And I told her, I said, well, this is what I can tell you. I said, it's like I'm standing in the middle of a NASCAR racetrack and all of the cars are zooming around me. I can see the black and white checkered flag. I can tell you the music that's playing. And I told her, and I said, I said, it feels like I'm on fire and like I have just been beaten. And it really did feel like I was on fire. It felt like somebody had lit me on fire. And then I described 2 other people. And it turns out that her son's girlfriend had hooked up with another guy. They had beat him to death with a baseball bat, set him on fire, and one of his favorite things in the world was NASCAR. So you can't get a whole lot more specific than that. But because I know pain and because I understand that it's not going to last forever, they don't mind letting me know what they felt. And I can't be angry about that, because no matter how bad it is for me, it is a hair of what they actually felt upon passing. So if I can't take that, if I can't take one for the team and be able to say what happened and say it with authority and know it because they're making me feel it, then I need to find another thing to do. I need to get another fucking job.
Yeah, it's all about connecting. I think a large part of why we're here is about connecting. It's never about, the one. It's about, the duality of everything and connecting. Even, after death, before you die, it's all equally important. But before we go down this road of what we call the rabbit hole, we're going to go back to the chat real quick. We're going to do some shout outs, and I know we have at least 1 or 2 questions for Vanessa. So what do we got? Who we got?
On Facebook, I have Garrett Schreiner. I have Craig Williams. I have Sandy Griffith. I have Julia Syracusa. Joe Hampton Chandler. Bill Davis. Let's see. Matt Benton, Christy Brown, RJ Murphy, Amanda Tyrell. And that's all I have right now, and I don't have any questions. Okay.
Well, I'm sure some of those Vanessa knows, so this is your time to put her on Front Street.
They do that all the time.
All right. I'm looking forward to it.
On YouTube, we have Craig Williams, Joe Vitale, Scotty Fox, Nelly, Sam Thomas, Val, Raw Uncut, and Eric Weiss. I have 3 questions so far, unless they're adding. More. Okay. Sam wanted to know, have you ever had a spirit attached to you and wouldn't leave?
Oh, bless you, hon. Yes, I have an attachment. No, he will not leave. And he was written about in my third book, in Walking with Ghosts. It's when I really kind of took the Hollywood out of it. I took the pretty out of it. He is not nice. But I took away some of his power by writing about it. I've woken up with bruises and handprints on my body in ways that I can't put them. I mean, I physically can't place them where they are in the positions that they are. And that's happened for years. And he actually has been visible when I've been doing shows for like Noreen Balovich on Paranormal Zone TV. People have seen him behind me before I ever wrote about him and described him to a T. People have contacted me from Europe privately in direct messages, telling me that he has contacted them before I wrote about him, before anybody knew about him, trying to pass himself off as a deceased uncle because he was worried about me because I wouldn't acknowledge him. He's been seen visually by people in Oklahoma, Virginia, and Louisiana. Physically seen him in front of them before I ever wrote about him. He's not a nice person. He's been with me for many lives, many moons, and he's not going nowhere. And I mean, I can play the Billy Badass card with the best of them. I'm pretty damn good at what I do. I can't get rid of him, but I can't ignore the fuck out of him. And that's what I do. That's what I do.
Sounds like a marriage.
But you know what? That's the sick part of it, is that's kind of where he's at. He is very, there's a reason I'm single, and it's more than just the fact that I am too busy. I don't know what would happen. I know how things were when I was in a relationship in the past. I don't know how things would be now. And I'm really not willing to risk it right now.
Baggage is one thing, but all the paranormal stuff, all the paranormal baggage might be overwhelming. For
I can't tell you how much of a turnoff that is for guys. I've been on a couple of dates. And the second they hear what I do, it's check. True story. And you know what? I'm pushing 50. I'm going to be 47 in March. So I got other things on my plate. I'm all right.
Right.
So it's all good. Single life for me.
Eric asked a question. Do spirits, quote, dig her because she doesn't judge, or more because she can hear them?
It's a good question. It's a really good question. It could be a combination of the two. It really could be a combination of the two, but hearing me is one thing, and I deal with a lot of spirits that try to communicate. But when specific groups seek you out, I don't know if maybe the military connection I have is with my ex-husband, because I was a military wife and I understand, I get it. I understand PTSD. I understand combat. I understand that you have to do things you might not do here stateside on our soil. I get it. And that's one of the things, like when I was in Virginia and I was at Sailor's Creek, I no sooner had to step out on the property that they're literally running at me. And Gwen's got all this on camera with me basically having to put my hands over my ears and say, give me a minute, stop. And they're telling me, when they finally calm down, they're like, okay, we came from this direction. That's where the river runs, right over there, or the creek, whatever it is, Sailor's Creek. And it was red with blood. But if we would have come from this direction over here, through that tree line, a half a mile away, we would have had such and such less loss of life. And because we didn't do that, they're piling our bodies up outside of this house, right by this tree. The family of this house was stuck in the basement because we were doing surgeries above them with blood dripping down on them as they're trying to eat. They're throwing all this at me, and not once did I go, oh. I was like, okay. All right, I understand. And then I would relay it to Gwen. This is what they're saying. And then I would go back. Okay, go ahead, go give me more. And she was able to confirm every last thing down to names.
Yeah, I would imagine that it's similar to like going to confession, to where the Catholic priest leaves his door open and is very non-judgmental. And
that's a brilliant way to put it. You're brilliant.
I'm good with analogies.
Don't say that.
But I've never looked at it that way. That is so true.
That's what it sounds like.
That is exactly what it's like.
Right on. There you go.
I got a new one.
All right. We had Pat Crafts join, Mod Squad's Comedies join, Jay Boggs has joined, Kelly McCarville. Did I say that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Okay. Here's one from Roland Cuts. Why do psychics get annoyed when you ask them on the spot? I'm sorry. When you ask them on the spot to prove something or speak to a loved one, it's almost like they feel challenged, but surely they can see what we can't.
Oh, I don't get annoyed at all. If I can, a matter of fact, I have a part-time job on the weekends as well. I told you I'm a working motherfucker. I just work all the time. And it's a waitress. I wait tables on the weekend. And I can't tell you how many people have come in when I've been flinging hash and biscuits and gravy at everybody. And they're like, can you tell me if there's anybody with me right now? And if I see them, I'll tell them.
Sure, right.
You know, I mean, but if I don't see them, I'm going to say, dude, I got nothing. I don't know what to tell you. I'm sorry. Maybe it's just because I'm busy. Maybe I'm just not seeing them and somebody else could. I don't have an ego. I don't get offended.
Okay. I think this question was kind of about the, one I just asked, but he says, I asked a joiner to build me a bunk bed, but when I ask a psychic to talk to my loved ones, she needs time or feels challenged. Why is this?
Honestly,
But
and this is going to make me real unpopular with the psychic community. And I kind of already am, so it's okay. I've actually done YouTube videos on how to spot fake psychics. Now, I'm not saying that just because somebody does that they're fake. Far from it. What I am saying is, if somebody asks you to do something and you have time, try to do it. If you don't have time, just be honest about why. And anytime someone says, I need a minute, or I feel like they're saying, or I feel like they're implying that they're offended because they're being asked, or they feel like they're being challenged, I'm going to question their validity. I'm going to. So if I'm going to do it knowing what I know, I fully expect somebody who isn't psychic to question them. I encourage it. If it's me, question me. If I do a show, if I do a reading, if I do anything, the first thing I tell people, question every word that comes out of my mouth, please. Because I got nothing to hide.
I'm kind of like what Kelly says. She says, but it's not like we can control them, LOL. Spirits aren't circus monkey that performs on command.
True. But if somebody comes up to me and asks me, hey, can you tell me if you're getting anything from my grandma? I will actually try.
Sure.
And if I can't, I will tell them, I am so sorry. I got nothing.
There's a lot of expectation.
Yeah. Well, but it's just be honest. Don't say that you need to prepare. No, just be honest. You either get something right there or you don't. It really is that simple. The book that I'm working on right now is called Rebel Witch, a memoir, and it is all about how I do it. Tarot, magic, remote viewing, automatic drawing, everything. Again, taking the mystery out of it. Because it really is something that we all can do. And people need to know the little hinks and the quirks about it, and educate themselves. I have too many people contacting me telling me, hey, I had a reading, or somebody told me that I was cursed and it's going to cost me X amount of dollars. And I mean, into the hundreds, into the thousands sometimes to fix it. What do I do? Well, aside from telling me who it is so I can kick their ass, I don't know what to tell you. Because that's fucking extortion.
Yeah. So. He also asked, and I know we've talked about this on the show before, Justin, but if a person is psychic, I'm waiting for somebody to solve a murder, a cold case. One hasn't been done yet worldwide. Well, what's your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm working on one right now. And if the police would work with us on it, you know, we would be a lot closer than we are. And I have actually worked with the police and found bodies.
Nice.
So, yeah. Just because it's not publicized doesn't mean it ain't happening. Yeah. I have physically been contacted myself by police departments and helped them out.
Yeah, it can be dicey in some situations, like what me and Jess has talked about. If you come to law enforcement with information, they may have reason to suspect you for knowing things. Family members, other people that are involved in the case may have reason to suspect you, like prosecutors, so on and so forth.
Well, we can actually go further than that. Do you remember, what was it, last year, the year before, the little girl, I believe it was from North Carolina, the little 3-year-old girl that was missing?
Yeah.
Okay. The second a friend of mine sent me that story, I saw someone. I don't know. I didn't know when I was doing it if that was the person involved. I didn't know. I just knew I got to draw him. I see him. Okay. So I drew him, and I'm like, okay, well, I feel this person is involved in some fashion, but I'm not going to be accusatory. So let's try to figure this out together. So I contacted the police department. I told them who I was. I mean, it's not like I'm some unknown person. I got like 10 pages on Google. You know, Google my name. I'm not lying about who I am. And I contacted the police department and I said, hey, I think I might have information on who might be involved or at least associated with the disappearance of this little girl. And they didn't want to have anything to do with it. So I contacted the FBI. The FBI, their location there in North Carolina, I contacted them and they said, we can't accept any information right now. Everything has to go through the police department. They wanted to. All I wanted to do was fax them a picture. All I wanted to do. I said, I don't need any recognition. You don't need to do anything. Just take this picture. They couldn't do it. Everything had to go through the police department. So I called the police department back. Didn't tell them who I was. All I said to them was, I have information on the little girl that's missing. I could have been a neighbor. I could have been somebody that lived 2 houses down that saw it all. Do you know what they told me? Can you call back tomorrow? True story. True story. So I called Crime Stoppers. They couldn't accept my picture. I sent it to my friend. I put it on Facebook. I said, nobody will take this. Nobody will help me. Nobody will listen to me. Can y'all put this out there? Guess what it was? It's a picture of the boyfriend, of the mother of that little girl.
Wow.
I didn't know that. Nobody would listen. It was days before they got it.
That's crazy.
So people try. People try. They just don't listen.
That's unfortunate.
Yes.
Okay. There's another question. He says, do you believe in generational curses?
No.
Also, why do some families seem to get bad luck or back luck and others don't?
Okay. This is actually a really easy answer. No, I don't believe in familial curses, and I'll tell you why. Because any type of magic you do takes constant effort, a constant stream of energy. If I wanted to curse you right now, I could say, oh, I curse you, and you're going to think I did for a minute, and then your life is going to go on. Unless I am constantly putting that energy out there, I don't have that energy to waste, okay? As far as why some families seem to have bad luck and others don't, there's this really strange phenomenon called we're making it happen ourselves. When people believe they have bad luck, when people believe they are cursed, they tend to make poor choices. They do things that would inflict harm on themselves financially, physically, emotionally, whatever, and they kind of walk down that path. If somebody feels like they're cursed 9 times out of 10, all they need to do is change their way of thinking. It's like it's like the dental world, which is what I'm in 40 hours a week. I had people come in and they say, well, bad teeth run in my family. No, they don't. Bad dietary choices and bad oral hygiene run in your family, not bad teeth, you know? And I mean, that's just a medical fact, aside from some very small instances. So it really is. People can curse themselves simply needing to be a victim. True story.
Nice. If you have any more questions from YouTube, hold off now. I want to give Missy a chance because I've seen a few on Facebook.
Sure.
5. The first question is, tell us, what was your most overwhelming experience while investigating the paranormal?
Oh, wow. Okay, that's a good one. You ready? All right, sit down there. We were in Virginia. We were at a private residence. I flew out there because there were children involved. And it was bad. Lots and lots and lots going on at this particular residence. The family no longer lives there, thank goodness. Multi-generational, but what the big problem was is the house itself that was very old, the kitchen of the house used to be the entire house, which was slave quarters. And everything else was built around it. On this, and that, what you're dealing with in the house and on that part of the property was one thing. I mean, they had me doing all kinds of crazy shit. But on that same property, about 200 feet away from the house, like if you're looking at the house to the right, back over in this wooded area, was a barn. And I was there with Beyond Perception investigators with Gwen Clapper and Chris Loper. And we almost got out of the paranormal because of what happened there. The closest I've ever come in my 46, almost 47 years to seeing anything demonic was straddling the roof of that barn. And I mean straddling, arms and legs. It was ginormous. And that barn was, you could only call it a people barn. It was not meant for animals. The stalls were 2.5 feet deep. You had to step into the stalls. The doors went all the way to the ceiling and were barred from the outside. Yeah, you don't have any animal step down 2.5 feet in the stall. You just don't do it. I'm a country girl for the most part. You just don't do that. It was vile, absolutely vile. I'm normally the channeler of the group. I let spirits hop on in and drive me wherever they need to go. I mean, it's my thing. It's what I do. It happened to Gwen that night. And seeing how it affects somebody else instead of me scared me more than the times I've ended up 18 blocks away from where I started with no recollection of how I got there. So having to pull this horrified spirit of a grieving mother out of Gwen, who was wanting to fight this thing that we can only assume was holding the spirit of her child in that barn, that took a lot. That almost did it. Chris was having to carry her away, and I was there trying to pull this woman out of her. It was bad. I came home beat up.
Wow.
Emotionally and physically. If that never happens again, happy girl. So anyone who ever says they're looking for something like that and that they're not afraid can fuck off, because that's bullshit. That is scary, 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 life-changing shit when you've seen it. When you've actually seen it. When you've seen something that has a leg span of probably 25 feet. Arms and legs straddling the top of a barn. And it was communicating with me. It was beating on the roof in a sequence of hammers, like bam, 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 answering questions.
Is this in one of your books?
Yeah, it's in Walking with Ghosts.
Nice. So
it was bad.
I'm sure there's people watching that would definitely like to know more elaborate details of that story, so they can.
There's all kinds of crazy shit in there, but that is the most. That was the one that almost did me. Now, y'all keep in mind, I've been channeling before when something popped in me and drugged me to Jacques Saint Germain's house in the French Quarter and had me trying to break in. And I woke up on my back on the sidewalk in front of this home, no recollection. Witnesses who had chased me down and were standing over me. And I'm like, what the fuck? I didn't know. You know, they're having me try to break in and stuff. That didn't scare me. That fascinates me. That thing scared the hell out of me.
I understand.
You got another one?
Have you had any spirits help you?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. It actually really kind of happens all the time, you know, because sometimes, and sometimes I don't listen. They try. I don't listen because I think I know better. And I forget they've seen what I haven't. But yeah, that's actually happened multiple times in my life. I was stalled. My car broke down, and there was no reason in the world for it to start up. None. No reason in the world for it to start up. And lo and behold, as soon as this guy came up to my window with a tire iron, and he was going to try to break in my window, this was in Wichita, Kansas, turn that key, and it blazed like it never had before. And my foot wasn't even like really on the gas, and it floored and just got me out of there. Multiple times that's happened. Not the breaking of the window, but yeah, no, I've been saved. Literally saved.
So would you perceive that as a guardian angel or entity, or just spur of the moment, someone swooped in, seen you were in trouble, and helped you?
It actually felt like spur of the moment.
Mm-hmm.
It really did. Because we all have our people looking out for us. But I mean, let's face it, I'm a full-time job, you know, and they got other things to do too. So it didn't feel like a family member. It didn't feel like one that I had communication with before. It literally felt like, oh shit, we're passing by. We see this happening and this can't happen. That's what it felt like.
Interesting.
It was really beautiful. It's a beautiful moment.
Nice. Yeah.
Okay. What is your belief as a medium? Do you believe in a deity of some kind?
Deity.
A deity? Well, I have my patron goddesses, you know, but basically what it comes down to, I mean, because we all kind of want to put a name and a face to whatever it is that we believe in, whether it's Jesus, whether it's Kali, whether it's Minerva or Apollo or whoever it is. Yeah, I mean, a pack of ketchup, whatever it is, it needs to have an image. But when it comes right down to it, I just believe in a higher power. And sometimes that higher power has many soldiers. And it doesn't matter to me where they come from, as long as, you know, as long as everybody's heart and souls are in the right place, not pure. I won't say pure, but in the right place, because ain't none of us pure. You know, then that's all I care about. Did that make sense?
It did to me.
There you go.
And then the only other question I have is, how do you read people who don't realize their dead relatives were actually assholes and break the news that they were assholes?
I know, I tell them. True story. I tell them, I'm like, damn, man, your grandpa was a dick. I don't know what, and you know what's funny? You know what happens is 9 times out of 10 they're like, yeah, true story. But the thing is, I don't, and you can ask anybody. You know, you could put out a poll right there right now of anyone who's ever had a reading from me, and if they would tell you I am honest to a fault. I don't care how stupid I'm going to look. I was just put this in the book the other day. I had a reading where I'd finished the reading. Everything was all hunky-dory, you know, and told everything that I thought I needed to tell. And towards the end, we're chit-chatting away, and I told her, I said, look, I have to tell you something. She's like, what? And I said, I'm going to sound like a fucking idiot. I said, okay. I said, peacocks are really important to you. Didn't have a damn clue as to what it meant. Peacocks were very important to her. I sounded like a fool. Do you know what she did? Started laughing. And I said, yeah, I know. She goes, no, there is literally no way you could have known that. I said, what? That you like peacocks? Okay. She goes, no. Because I was just in the office at work today, and a kid came through waving his report card around who had always had difficulty in school. And she goes, I looked over to one of the other ladies in the office and I said, look at him strutting around, proud as a peacock. And I was like, all right, I'm not an asshole. That made sense to you. That's all I care about. That's all I care about. You know, it isn't about me looking good. It's not about me looking good. It's not about me being right. If I have to sound dumb as a bag of hammers to get the message across, then that's what I'm going to do, because it's the message that's important, not me.
My mother, she's a very gifted psychic, and she will say things that are very bizarre. And there's a lot of things that people who have gifts, who see things that may terrify those who don't see such things. It's going to sound crazy. The last video I uploaded, Monroe House in Hartford City, Indiana, the entity there was lobbing severed heads down the stairs at her, and she said, hey, did you hear that? I said, no. Play it back on the recorder. You hear the heads thumping down the steps. And, wow.
Yeah.
And, you know, she will say things that don't make sense. And I'm like, what? And she's like, well, maybe sense later, later on. So I get it.
I had was it my first book? It might've been my first book, which sucked. Okay. I'm proud I wrote it. It sucks. Don't buy it. Go to the second two. Okay. My first book was Soulscapes. And I think it was in that book that I put this. It might've been Giving Up the Ghost, but it was in one of them. And I should have put a rating on it, because when I automatic draw, I draw what I see. It's not always pretty. Okay. And in one of the pictures, the woman was hanging and she had been quartered. So she was nude, very thin, and her arms and her legs were laying on the ground below her.
Wow.
So, I mean, but I saw it, so I have to draw it. It's just the way it works. And it's weird because psychic visions come to you and you have no idea where they're coming from. I actually had visions years before I even got in contact with the group NP Paranormal out of Sheffield, England. I during meditation, I had this weird vision of death masks flying at me. I mean, just tons of them. And in the book, Soulscapes, I drew those out. I ended up doing a remote viewing investigation for MP Paranormal out of the Derby Gaol, which is English for jail. It's GAOL. Guess what was in there in a box? Death masks. Encased in a glass top box. The death mask that I'd drawn. Years before I even met the team.
Interesting.
Don't know why. Can't explain it. Not even going to try.
I don't blame you.
Yeah.
It can get pretty nuts really fast.
Well, sometimes there's just not an explanation.
Right. A lot of things, when you're dealing with those types of things, just don't make sense or isn't pretty or beautiful at all. I know the paranormal can be scary.
Yeah.
And as long as you're conveying it and portraying it as scary when it's scary, that's fine. When it's not scary, you just tell it how it is. We were talking before the show, the trailer I just put out, it's not scary. It's uplifting. Mm-hmm. If I go to a location and it makes me feel good, or if there's uplifting qualities that I like to portray about it, I will. I'm sure there's scary and not so uplifting things, but it's in the eye of the beholder, I believe.
Well, and I mean, tell me what makes your heart feel better. Going to a place where you already know you're going to get spooked. So, yay. Or going to a place where there's a child that doesn't know what's going on. And all they need, all they want is for somebody, anybody, to notice them, to say, hey, I see you.
Right.
You know, you're not alone. Because that's what people don't understand. When you're somebody that has any type of abilities, and you can ask your mom this, it isn't as if one comes to you at a time. Never is it like one comes to you at a time. Those motherfuckers are like an auditorium, okay? And everyone is going, pick me, pick me. Sometimes the littlest one is back behind all these really loud, rambunctious ones that probably get all the attention in the world, but this little one over here doesn't get anything. So sometimes you got to tell the big ones, back off. I'm dealing with this little dude right now. And that might not be the sexiest thing. That might not be the scariest thing. That might not be what everybody wants to see. But I bet you fucking dollar it's the most important one, because that little one is the one that needs the help, not the ones that are starved for attention. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, from your perspective, it does. A lot of people pursue the paranormal for different reasons. Mine doesn't have to be, mine doesn't consist of, thrills, wanting to be scared. It's a spiritual exploration and
yes,
and education. So,
yes.
a lot of my stuff, I bring this up a lot. Waverly Hills was bad. It felt bad. I mentioned it on the edge of the rabbit hole. The residual, energy there, the emotion still imprinted there was bad. There's no way to sugarcoat that, make it seem uplifting at all. There was nothing about it that was good. So, the stuff, my creative license for the film production on that was on the bad side. So,
but that's understandable and expected to a certain degree. People can't believe it when I tell them one of my bucket list places, and that's Auschwitz. Now, I won't step foot into the LaLaurie Mansion in New Orleans. I won't do it. I won't do it. That place absolutely terrifies me. It would take so much for me to go in there. But if I could get to Auschwitz, if I could actually go there, I actually think I could do some good. And I know that sounds kind of pompous, and it's not meant to be that way, but I could.
Right.
I know I could. And I know in my heart one of these days I'm going to be there. I had places lined up this summer that I can't give the locations, but similar types of situations. Not any place you can drive to from here, I'll say that. But it's very similar, and it means a lot that I have access to these places, because that's why I do what I do. That's why. Not to scare people, but to help people.
Yeah, it's awesome. It can be beautiful, it can be ugly, but as long as we're being real and portraying it correctly, and I think that's important, is to keep it real, keep it true. Is it clear as far as really good questions on Facebook and YouTube, girls?
I have 2.
Okay.
If you want.
Well,
I don't know. Does Missy, you have any?
No, I don't have any.
As long as Vanessa's cool with answering them.
I'm fine.
Okay. Now I know this one's actually for me, and I have another one, but I know you were talking about, walking up to and, thinking that everybody's going to think you're crazy about the whole peacock thing and everything. I mean, what do you usually say when you walk up to a complete stranger so they don't think you're crazy?
You're going to laugh.
Do you not try to do that,
I have done it. I've gotten really good at blocking when I have to. So I can actually block it out if I need to, if I'm in a particular situation, because I'm empathic. And when you don't block to a certain degree, life sucks. Okay. Walmart is a nightmare. But but that's actually happened to me before. And I've walked up to a complete stranger and says, please don't call the cops.
Right.
I'm not crazy, but, and it went really well. It went really well. It was her father. I've had to contact people that out of the blue because a deceased relative of somebody they knew contacted me because the person they knew was going to have an accident and have to go into the hospital. So I actually had a dead person make me feel excruciating pain so I could contact someone I barely knew on MySpace, tells you how long ago it was, and say, hey, I'm getting a message about this person. This is what they look like. This is how big their boobs are. This is what their eye color is. This is what their hair color is. This is their favorite animal. This is their nickname. Please check on them. And come to find out, the excruciating pain in my stomach, at the same time that happened to me, that person's ex-mother-in-law's stomach had ruptured and she was being rushed to the hospital.
Wow.
The only connection I had to this person I had to contact was I had gotten a kitten from them at a pagan picnic a year before. Only connection.
Pagan picnic.
Yeah.
Good food.
Good food.
I'm a Southern girl. We eat. I ain't skinny for a reason. Okay.
Rawl actually had one last question, and then I think I'm cleared up on Facebook or YouTube. He said, Vanessa, we had a skeptic on the show the other day. He kept asking, what is a ghost and what is it made of? Can you share any light on what they are and what they're made of, if you know?
It's a soul. That's all it is. And a soul has no body. You can't say what a soul is made of. It's just energy. And I love skepticism. I love it. And I think there should be a healthy amount of it. But some skeptics want you to answer a question with a scientific answer when this isn't a science. And I learned a long time ago, if there's a skeptic and they don't believe in what I say or what I do, okay. My sun does not rise and fall on their opinion. It means dick to me. They don't have to believe any more than I have to prove it to them. I don't put what I put out there to prove paranormal activity to anybody, period. And I don't think that anybody should have to prove anything. If you have something, be honest about it. If you don't get something, be honest about it. That's all I can say. But there is no physical body to a ghost. When you see mist or you see the dark mist or whatever, doesn't mean it's good, doesn't mean it's evil. It's however they can manifest that energy and turn it into something that we can see without just our mind. But they're not something solid. They're not made up of anything that I know.
Okay, I do have one more question. I know we're after 9 o'clock, but just real quick, what does Jay Boggs ask? What does it mean when you come across someone that can't be read, no matter the attempts or the atmosphere?
They have really, really good walls, and you know how I know that? Me, many have tried, none have succeeded. None.
Okay.
And that was even before I got really into this field. That was as long as 10 years ago. And they told me, can't do it. You got like the master firewall up. And it's true. Some people just put that up, even if they're not aware of it. Mm-hmm. It's self-preservation. And they put it up and you can't get through it.
Okay. That is all I have on YouTube.
Okay.
All right. Facebook, are we clear? Is there any life-altering, changing questions for Vanessa?
No.
Oh, shit.
All right. Well,
I have a few, but I don't want to ask them right now.
No, you can ask her anytime.
You ask me anytime you want to, love.
But we're going to wrap up the show. I do want to put, a spin or my 2 cents in on the science explanation of ghosts. There's unknowns out there. Science thrives on research, and research thrives on unknowns. So don't get too caught up in your own skepticism. Don't get too caught up in your own speculation. Just leave room for properly, executed research, and don't be afraid to say, I don't know, or don't be afraid to say, hey, I'm working on this. Just give me a minute.
Excellent answer. I like his better than mine.
Well, I have shows where I talk to skeptics. I have shows where I talk to psychics. I have shows I talk to paranormal investigators. So I'm starting to learn quite a bit really rapidly doing this stuff. So thank you, Vanessa. You
need to get me on your panel with a skeptic. I would love that someday. You let me know when.
All right. Well, how about 2 weeks?
Okay.
All right.
What night is it on?
It's on Mondays.
Okay.
So it's not going to interfere with Edge of the Rabbit Hole.
No. That's all good.
All right. Well, like I said, thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. We could definitely do this for much longer. We have all the material in the world to entertain the paranormal hungry. But we're going to wrap it up. Why don't you give us some plugs before we do?
Okay, just real quick. Hi, Vanessa Hogle. I have 3 books. Don't buy the first one. It's Soulscapes. Go for Giving Up the Ghost or Walking with Ghost, and they're on Amazon. I do, and Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, Kmart, Walmart, wherever it is you want to look them up, they're there. We also have a documentary out, Me and Threefold Paranormal, which is Julia Siracusa, Rachel Rodbell, and Gwen Clapper, concerning the Cropsey case. That's on YouTube. We're still working on that, have been for 2 years. Keep your eyes peeled. Got some shit this year. Yay!
Awesome. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Thank you for joining us again. The links to the books, there's links to Haunted Road Media's website for your books. So please check that out, guys. I do believe her social media is on there. Some other stuff. Just check out the links, please. I'm going to wrap this up. Vanessa, if you want to hang out in the video call, go ahead. If you got to go, you got to go.
I got to go potty.
All right. Well, I will talk to you about the Supernatural Symposium panel.
Okay, sounds great. Bye, girls. Bye. Bye, Giga.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us tonight, guys. It's been a pleasure. Please check out all the links in the video description about Vanessa's work, her books, and follow her on social media, see what she's up to. We're going to go over here to the links section. Excuse me, I'm sick. We're going to talk about all these nice little links here. We have interfacedeath.net. That is the paranormal research group that I lead. And if you want to see everything that I do as far as the live shows, the video productions, the paranormal research, that's where you go. Links in the description. Patreon.com/supportinterfacedeath. That's definitely where you want to go if you want to further support what we do, and we'll talk about that more in depth in a minute. You can follow the Necromancer live show on Facebook if you're watching on YouTube. Of course, you're already doing so if you're on Facebook. You can follow Interface Death on Twitter and Instagram. There's a lot of cool photos and keep up to date on Twitter. So Patreon is definitely something that will keep this content not only here, but make it better. A lot of the stuff that we get paid from Patreon support goes right back into the production and broadcasting we do. So without the help of Clay Borman, R.J. Murphy, Casey Schreiner, Jessica Bias, Scotty Fox, Sherry Brett, Bill Davis, Joe Vitale, Heather Elliott, and General Rogue, this content would not be possible. You get rewards for donating on Patreon, and you get access to cool exclusive content. So please check that out. And there you have it. I'm going to leave it there. Thanks for joining me tonight. It's been a lot of fun. I like doing the show. I like talking to you folks, and doing this. It's all good times. Supernatural Symposium, I got to figure out when we're going to do that. We may have Vanessa back onto that show and see how she does on a panel with a skeptic. I'm sure that's going to be entertaining as hell, right? Next Monday, we're voting on my Paranormal Soapbox topic. I think it's, help remind me, what the hell is it? It's up on my blog page, so go check it out if you want to vote. Next week on Necromancer, we'll see who we got. We have Rich Valdez. He's a demonologist, so we'll talk with him next week. 8 p.m., same bat time, same bat channel. You guys have a good night. I love you very much. You're in my thoughts, and I hope you have a good night. And if you're new to the show, stick around for video promotions. We're just now releasing a brand new trailer for our final episode of Portals to Past, so definitely stick around to watch that. Check out Deadlight LLC on Facebook. I'll see you guys next time. Do you have that drive? That morbid curiosity to explore the darkness? Do you have what it takes to brave the night? You do? Good.
Deadlight. For those who aren't afraid to see what lurks in the night.
Are you in this room over here? What the fuck, dude?
Whoa.
That's weird.
You didn't do anything, right?
No, it just turned.
Justin too close?
No.
He opened that door and then went off.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you just run out of there?
Are you down there? Not afraid. We know what it feels like to walk in the darkness.
Of prolonged isolation, paranoia, depression, helplessness, brain stimuli decreases. Now, what happens when you put a man isolated in 3 paranormal infested buildings for 3 nights in each location, all by himself? No one to help me. No one to protect me. Just me versus you. Does paranormal activity increase?
So what do you think of this piece of evidence? I think by far it's the best piece of evidence we have seen here.
That's flat out amazing. I mean, that's something we've never captured.
Oh, wow.
What?
First time